Sidious never showed respect for anyone. They were either pawns or obstacles to his grand plans. On one distant world, he made an exception, possibly the only exception. Why would the mighty Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Sidious, think that Mother Talzin was a worthy adversary and even respected her power? To fully understand why Sidious respected this witch, we have to know what made her stand out. Talzin was the matriarch of the Nightsisters of Dathomir. The Nightsisters are a clan of witches who tap into the Force in ways different from that of the Jedi or Sith. Jedi tap into this energy field with discipline. The Sith bend it to their will with passion and hate. The Nightsisters practiced magic. These are spells accomplished through rituals, ichor, and the dark side of the Force. They could conjure illusions, energy, and wield a mystical, terrifying power. The galaxy at large, or those who were aware of them anyway, thought of them as dangerous outsiders and gave them a wide berth. Sidious, shockingly, found them intriguing. They wielded the Force in a way that he could not easily control and tapped into a power that he wanted to add to his own. Many years before the Clone Wars, Sidious traveled to Dathomir. He knew the witches were powerful and sensed potential in one specific young Zabrak, Maul. Maul was Talzin's own son. Doing what he did best, Sidious coerced Talzin to allow Maul to leave with the Sith Lord and become his apprentice. Talzin would later claim that this wasn't an exchange of custody or a gift, but a theft. Sidious had stolen her son and twisted his mind to make him a Sith assassin. Over time, this wound that Talzin felt would widen to begin to fester. Every day that Maul was with Sidious, Talzin took it as a slight, a perversion to his bloodline and the Nightsister ways. Her hatred for Sidious was incredibly personal. Objectively, this whole dynamic was proof that Sidious saw the Nightsisters' power and knew he had to do something to harness it. After Sidious allowed Maul to reveal the existence of the Sith to the Jedi, Maul was defeated in combat and thought dead for years. When Maul reintroduced himself to the galaxy, he was a shell of a man, nearing total insanity. Talzin found her son, restored his mind, and rebuilt his body. She would support him and help him build his own base of power. She continued to lead the Nightsisters and trained another of her people that was influential in the war between the Jedi and Sith, Asajj Ventress. This warrior was originally taken into the Jedi Order. When her master died, Asajj was lost. She was taken in and manipulated by Count Dooku, or Darth Tyrannus. Dooku trained her to be a Sith assassin, much like Maul. When Sidious sensed her growing power, he ordered Dooku to eliminate her. This would also eliminate any threat that Sidious felt in himself. The Sith do operate under the rule of two, where it would be kind of expected that one day Dooku would overthrow Sidious. So if Dooku had a powerful apprentice of his own, it would make that all the more likely. Sidious could not have that. If you're getting value or entertainment out of any of my transmissions, it would mean a lot if you would join the Remnant and subscribe. Dooku tried to follow the Order, and Asajj once again lost her identity. She returned to her birth home, Dathomir. Talzin helped Ventress find herself again. She reminded her of where she came from. She experienced something of a Nightsister rebirth with rituals and ichor. Ventress wanted revenge. She went after her former master and almost killed Dooku in his own palace. She actually would have succeeded had reinforcements not arrived in time to save him. This was another instance of Talzin proving her strength and establishing herself as a threat to Sidious. She elevated one of her own people, took a tool of the Sith and turned it against them. A move that Sidious would have been able to appreciate had it not been used against him. These shifting powers in the galaxy did not go unnoticed by Sidious. He began to fear Talzin's growing influence and the power that she and her people commanded. At least as close to fear as Sidious was capable of feeling. I think by now his ego was so big he didn't actually fear anything. Sidious decided this was a matter that needed to be dealt with, personally. He, along with his current apprentice, Dooku, and the general of the droid army, Grievous, who Dooku trained, attacked the Nightsisters where they lived. As powerful as we all know Sidious to be, when it came down to him against Talzin, she nearly overwhelmed him. Sidious had to admit, even doing so out loud, that her power rivaled his own, something we all thought only possible through the Chosen One, Anakin Skywalker. This is the closest thing that Sidious ever did to showing respect to another. Talzin's final stand came during the Clone Wars. She attempts a ritual that would have tipped the scales of the fight in her favor. It also would have had wider repercussions on Sidious's plans. She manages to control Dooku for a short time and attempts to steal his life force. Dooku is overwhelmed by his master, and Talzin is forced to abandon the possession and fight more directly. In this direct fight, she is going toe-to-toe with Sidious. It's not clear that she would have won the fight with no intervention, but it looked like a possibility as she unleashed the full power of her magic. Grievous, ever loyal to the men that he served, stabs Talzin with 2 lightsabers simultaneously, mortally wounding the witch. She uses what's left of her powers to save her son. Sidious needed Talzin destroyed, not for anything as small as revenge or anger, not even to further his massive plot to rule the galaxy. He needed her gone because she was living proof that the Force was something greater than even he could control. If she was left to rebuild and grow in strength, she could one day rival him. Part of what let Talzin stand on her own against Sidious was the way that she wielded the power. It was not something Sidious was overly familiar with. Sidious was well learned in Sith alchemy, that's the closest the Sith powers come to touching magic. But the way that Talzin wielded this weird segment of the Force was barely hinted at in Sidious's learnings. While magic is a branch of the dark side, the two are not exactly the same when used in practicality. Sith alchemy was about domination. It was intended to bind life to the will of the Sith through malice and cruelty. Nightsister magic was communal and ritualistic. It draws its power from ichor found on Dathomir and in the bonds between the witches. Sidious was a master of Sith alchemy, but magic was a realm of the Force beyond his reach. This fact must have infuriated him. Sidious underestimated the Nightsisters at first, but with Talzin as the head, it was a lot more than a tribal matriarchal society. She manipulated Dooku, trained Ventress, and helped Maul build an empire of his own in the Shadow Collective. She may not have had the same plan and patience for the long game that Sidious did, but she came way too close for his comfort. I'm just going to interrupt for 1 second. Today's video is sponsored by me. Imperial Remnant now has a merch store, and it's not just designed specific to the channel. I'm working with a couple talented artists to bring you unique Star Wars themed designs. Check out the link in the description. Alright, back to the lore. Taking a look at Legends, the idea of the Nightsisters came many years before the Clone Wars. The Courtship of Princess Leia is a novel from 1994 where the concept of the Nightsisters was first introduced. They're introduced as a coven of Force-sensitive witches who challenged the Jedi and Sith alike. While the novel takes place after Palpatine's defeat at Andor, it does talk about his thoughts on this powerful group during the Imperial era. In Legends, the leader of the Nightsisters during that era was called Gethzerion. He feared this leader and the power of the Nightsisters. Instead of trying to manipulate, control, or destroy them, he has the planet placed under a strict quarantine to try to stop them from escaping into the wider galaxy. It's great how much of this made its way into canon so many years later. Check out this transmission next for more on the Nightsisters of Dathomir.